These are 7 of the worst NBA trades in the last 10 years. Let's go. First up, Paul George for Danilo Gallinari, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and 5 first-round picks. Now, so far, only 2 of these picks have materialized for the Thunder, first being Trey Mann from the 2021 draft, and second being Jalen Williams, who was the 12th pick from the 2022 NBA draft, but he has turned out to be an incredible player for them. He finished second in the Rookie of the Year voting last season, and I think it's safe to say he will be an important player for them going forward. Now, with the Clippers having multiple early playoff round exits and not even a conference finals appearance to show for the hefty price they paid for George, I think it's safe to say this was a bad deal.
Playoff P can't keep getting no passes. No, listen, let me tell you something.
What kind of passes are you giving him?
No, because you can't be calling yourself Playoff P and lose all the time.
Oh, and that's not even including the fact that SGA is blossoming into a superstar right before our eyes. He had his first All-Star appearance last year and led his team into the play-in tournament, knocking out the New Orleans Pelicans before falling to the Minnesota Timberwolves in the second game. OKC is in a great spot right now, and I know several NBA GMs would love to be in their position. I can't say the same for the LA Clippers. Number 2, in the summer of 2013, the Boston Celtics decided to trade away Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, and Jason Terry to the Brooklyn Nets in exchange for Gerald Wallace, Chris Humphries, Keith Bogans, Reggie Evans, Marshawn Brooks, and most importantly, they got 3 first-round picks who eventually ended up turning into Jaylen Brown from 2016 and Jason Tatum in 2017. This was obviously a terrible trade in hindsight because Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett were towards the end of their careers. They also didn't stay long in Brooklyn, and there was not much to show for it besides an early first-round playoff exit. The Celtics, however, maintained their relevancy and sort of never went through a full-on rebuild. The first year was kind of rough, but beyond that, they were always sort of in contention. This trade ended up being so bad for the Nets and working out so well for the Celtics, it is hard to say that anyone during this time could have predicted it, but due to the short-lived attempt by Brooklyn to assemble a super team, the Nets quickly fell to the bottom of the standings year after year, while the Celtics did fairly well. And the worse the Nets did, the better the Celtics draft picks were, and that's how they ended up with Brown and Tatum. However, it's funny to look back on this 2013 article from Bleacher Report where they gave the Boston Celtics only a B in terms of the grading of the trade, and they gave the Nets an A. Yeah, they didn't think the Celtics got nearly enough back in the trade, but remember, several draft picks usually turn out to do much better than an aging star well out of their prime. Number 3, the Utah Jazz traded Rudy Gobert to the Minnesota Timberwolves for 4 first-round picks, 1 pick swap, Jared Vanderbilt, Pat Beverly, Malik Beasley, and rookie center Walker Kessler, who has since turned out to be a great young player for the Utah Jazz, and he finished in the top 3 voting for Rookie of the Year. Now, this is only 1 year later from this trade, but I think everyone knew how bad the Wolves got fleeced in this trade right when they made it. And it also just didn't make a ton of sense in terms of the fit. The Wolves already had Karl Anthony Towns locked up for several years, and although Cat has established himself as being able to score inside and outside the 3, even if Gobert was a great fit for Minnesota, they certainly overpaid like crazy for him. Now, Danny Ainge, who is the GM of the Utah Jazz, clearly knew this offer was too good to pass up. And oh, did I mention, this is the same GM who got the haul from Brooklyn for Pierce and KG when he was the GM of the Celtics. I mean, he didn't get the nickname Trader Danny for no reason. In June of 2011, the Indiana Pacers made a grave mistake by trading the 15th draft pick to the San Antonio Spurs in exchange for George Hill. That 15th pick in the draft was Kawhi Leonard. Now, at the time, Indiana was in a win-now mode because of the emergence of Paul George and the supporting cast they had around him. Players like Danny Granger, Roy Hibbert, and David West. And Indiana really needed a point guard. However, Leonard was averaging 15 and 10 and was second-team All-American in college. So yeah, Kawhi may have surprised some people in terms of the superstar he's since turned into. Clearly, San Antonio knew they were getting someone special. Can you just imagine what Paul George and Kawhi Leonard would look like in Indiana in their early years instead of whatever is going on now in LA with the Clippers? Man, it could have been some crazy times. Number 5. After a quick first-round exit in 2021, the Lakers traded Kyle Kuzma, Montrezl Harrell, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, and a first-round pick to the Washington Wizards in exchange for Russell Westbrook and 2 second-round picks. Now, this trade turned out to be pretty damn bad for the Lakers as they missed the playoffs the following year and then began this previous season almost missing the playoffs before redeeming this trade by then flipping Westbrook for D'Angelo Russell, Malik Beasley, and Jared Vanderbilt. This significantly turned their season around, finishing the 2022 season with a 19-8 record and landing the 7th seed in the West. Russell Westbrook was a failed experiment for the Los Angeles Lakers, but they had to give up some decent role players in order to acquire him. And this has since hurt the Lakers because they don't have a ton of draft capital at their disposal. Number 6. The James Harden trade to Brooklyn is still relatively new, but it's not too early to say it was one of the worst things the Brooklyn Nets have ever done. And honestly, they've done a ton of bad moves in their tenure. The Nets traded up-and-coming center Jared Allen, Taurean Prince, Karis LeVert, as well as 3 first-round picks and 4 first-round pick swaps to Houston in exchange for James Harden. Now, the Rockets also got Dante Exum, a 22 first-round pick from Cleveland, and Brooklyn also received a 24 second-round pick. Decent job of flipping Harden to the Sixers because although, yes, they got Ben Simmons back, who's been trash and a total negative asset, they also picked up 2 first-round picks from the Sixers. So I guess that helps the sting for what they initially gave up for Harden. But looking back at this is going to have to go down as one of the absolute worst trades the Nets have ever done. If Ben Simmons didn't turn out to be a total flop, then I could kind of give them a pass here with this trade in general. Moving on to number 7. On August 22nd, 2017, the Boston Celtics traded Isaiah Thomas, Jay Crowder, Ante Zizic, and the Brooklyn Nets 2018 first-round pick to Cleveland in exchange for Kyrie Irving. Now, during this time, Irving asked Cleveland to be traded as it was rumored he didn't want to be in LeBron's shadow anymore. The Celtics, however, had just finished the season with the best record in the Eastern Conference and were bounced by the Cavaliers in the Eastern Conference Finals. That season, the Celtics were led by none other than Isaiah Thomas, as he averaged 29 points per game. Now, this trade turned out to be a disaster all around. However, Cleveland did make out far better than Boston in the long run. Kyrie did make the All-Star team during his 2 years in Boston, averaging 24 points, 6 assists, and 4.5 rebounds in the 127 total games he played. In the first year, his season was cut short as he suffered a knee injury, but the Celtics still made it all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals and taking the Cavs to a 7-game series without Irving. However, next year is when the problems would surface. The chemistry problem seriously brewed, and as Kyrie straight up told Boston that he would love to re-sign,
"You guys will have me back. I plan on re-signing here next year."
he then quickly did a 180 during the season. The Celtics fell short in the second round against Milwaukee, and then Kyrie would announce he's signing to Brooklyn. And although Isaiah Thomas was never the same in Cleveland as he was for Boston, he was coming off a hip surgery during that offseason he was traded. But Boston had to send additional compensation for this because Cleveland didn't really know what they were getting into. That additional compensation turned out to be a second-round pick, but the bigger deal here is the first-round pick that was from Brooklyn that Cleveland got in this trade turned out to be Colin Sexton. Now, Sexton was later used to acquire Donovan Mitchell in the 2022 offseason. The Celtics took a gamble on Irving, and it straight up didn't work out. In fact, it actually backfired big time, and Cleveland ended up getting out of that toxic relationship with Irving and were able to go through a pretty quick rebuild within those few seasons. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to subscribe and check out this video next. Thanks for watching. Peace.